YouTubers that became murderers.
Suzanne Eaton was a 59-year-old American scientist who was working as a professor of molecular biology in Dresden, Germany. A big part of her job at this institute was to travel around the world and hold conferences on the latest developments in her field. In July of 2019, she traveled to the scenic Greek island of Crete for one of these conferences, not knowing that this was going to be her last, and that the person responsible.
Damn. For a second, I thought she was the one going to be accused of being a you-know-what, but I guess she was the one who got, taken out in the end. That's sad.
For her end would be caught because of his videos on YouTube. The incident happened on July 2nd, when, after a conference, Suzanne spent time with her peers and played the public piano in the venue's lobby before saying her goodbyes and heading out to her hotel in the afternoon. Sadly, this was the last time anyone saw Suzanne alive. Her coworkers noticed her absence when she didn't show up for the second conference scheduled for 6 p.m. that evening. It wasn't like her to skip events out of the blue. Something wasn't right. A fact that became increasingly clear when over 24 hours passed without anyone hearing from her. So, on July 3rd, her colleagues called the police to check on her, hoping she was simply sick or something similar. However, when officers arrived at her hotel room, no one answered the door. They acquired a spare key from the hotel management and went inside, only to find the room completely empty and undisturbed. All of Suzanne's belongings were also still in the room. The only things missing were her running shoes and a set of exercise clothes. Those who knew her immediately understood what this meant. You see, in addition to her academic prowess and piano expertise, Suzanne was also an athlete at heart. She was a double black belt in Taekwondo, and despite her age, loved going on a run.
Sometimes too, it's just scary to think that, let's say you go missing, but there's something you do on the side, like some kind of hobby you have that might explain why you have gone missing. For example, let's say, people know that you like hiking or I don't know, running in the wilderness or something like that. So maybe if you go missing for a day, they might think, you're just doing that. When in reality, you might actually need help. And because they think you were doing something that you normally do, you might not get that help you needed on time. And that's a very scary thought to think about.
Every day. Knowing this helped investigators narrow down what might have happened to her. Put simply, she likely went on a run soon after returning to her hotel on July 2nd, and something went wrong after that. She wasn't super familiar with the area, and to make matters worse, the weather was uncomfortably hot that afternoon. There was a strong possibility she collapsed from the heat or something else along those lines. After putting this together, the Crete police immediately dispatched a search and rescue team in the area surrounding her hotel and around popular running trails. Her family even traveled to Crete and put a €50,000 reward for anyone who could help find Suzanne. Unfortunately, Suzanne was nowhere to be found. That is until 5 days later, on July 8th, when two young men were exploring one of the abandoned World War II Nazi bunkers scattered across Crete. Around 200 meters in, one of them noticed a piece of burlap covering something on the ground. They picked it up from one end to see what was underneath, and what they found was the aftermath of one of the most horrific crimes in Crete's recent history. The burlap was covering the bloody remains of Suzanne Eaton. A later autopsy report discovered that Suzanne had several broken ribs, multiple fractures throughout her body, a missing ear, and much, much more. Whatever happened to her certainly was not an accident. The investigators began searching for clues, and fortunately it didn't take long for them to make their first major breakthrough: a set of car tire tracks leading up to the entrance of the bunker. Analyzing these tracks allowed investigators to find the car responsible for transporting Suzanne's remains to that bunker. It belonged to 27-year-old Yanis Paraskakis, a local sheep farmer. But when questioned,
a 27-year-old guy, imagine going away and doing something like this, completely throwing your life away. For what? For what?
Yanis feigned ignorance and claimed that him driving through that area on that day was nothing more than a coincidence. He went as far as to say that he didn't even know about the existence of that bunker, a lie that would eventually lead to his arrest. You see, Yanis had a dream to become a successful YouTuber. He started a channel with his own name in 2012 and began posting videos. However, if you go to his channel today, all you'll find are 3 videos of him performing an ancient Chinese martial art and meditation technique called Qigong. That's because a couple days before Suzanne's body was discovered, Yanis deleted every other video on his channel. And once authorities recovered some of these deleted videos, it became clear why. You see, most of these deleted videos involved Giannis exploring abandoned World War II bunkers, including the one where Suzanne's remains were discovered. This contradiction gave the authorities the go-ahead to formally arrest him on July 15. It also allowed them to investigate him further, and the evidence they discovered was overwhelming. As it turned out, the land where this bunker was located was owned by Giannis's family. Investigators also found traces of Suzanne's blood in his car's trunk. When confronted with this evidence, Giannis cracked and told the whole story.
Like, did he even know this Suzanne lady? Like, you just, like, is he some kind of serial killer or something who likes just killing people? Because it doesn't seem like he has some kind of connection to her. So I don't know why he would do this. We're about to find out though.
Story. According to him, he saw Suzanne running down the road and something came over him. He hit her with his car twice before putting her in his car, driving to the bunker, and ending her life there. He later changed his story to where he was compelled to commit this crime by a demon. Unfortunately for him, the jury didn't buy this one bit and sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole in 20.
Much deserved. Absolutely deserved to get life in prison for that. Something came over you, so you would just run over an old lady who's going on a run twice and proceed to pick her up instead of taking her to the hospital to get her some help to maybe try and save her life, even though you would probably still get in trouble for what you did, because running over somebody twice is definitely not a mistake. And instead of doing all that, you proceed to take her to some kind of weird cave and end her life there. Like, why? It's disgusting.
2020. Now, this should have been the end of Giannis's story, but from what I've seen, there's more to his actions than just this one crime he was convicted of. The thing is, Giannis presented his vile act as a crime of opportunity, something he did completely out of nowhere. However, there's evidence to suggest that Giannis might be a full-blown serial killer. For instance,
Yes, I was right, because this is weird. This is behavior that is very weird, bro. Nobody just goes around killing random strangers they've never even met in their life, bro. He definitely gets some kind of pleasure from, torturing and taking the lives of innocent people, which is just a horrible thing to like want to do. Like, disgusting.
he was apparently detained by the police twice before, once for arson and once for animal cruelty, both of which are well-known early behaviors of serial killers. After his arrest, several other women also came forward, testifying that he had tried to run them over with his car as well in the past. So, Suzanne was more than likely not his first victim. However, the most solid evidence against Giannis is in one of the deleted videos he uploaded to YouTube. In it, we can see him showing some very human-looking bones scattered throughout the same bunker Suzanne was discovered in. These bones were never discovered by the authorities, suggesting they might have been removed by Giannis to hide evidence. But what makes this truly disturbing is what his friend says at one point in the same video. This roughly translates into, "Is this where you left that old guy?" Insinuating that Giannis
What? Someone who probably wanted to be some kind of legendary serial killer, he's pretty dumb for posting these videos on the internet, because this is self-incriminating as hell. That's all I'm gonna say, bro. Like, this is stupid. This is dumb. Yeah, it's a good thing bro got caught though, because he definitely did not need to be out there any longer doing horrible things like this to other people. So yeah, GG's to him, bro. It's a good thing he got caught.
had disposed of one of his previous victims in the same bunker before. And if that is the case, one can only wonder how many other people Giannis has killed over the years. Simply Manic 6075 was a YouTube channel owned and operated by 24-year-old Samantha Wolford. She lived in the small community of Monticello, Texas with her husband Ernest Lee Ibarra, aka Ernie, and their 5 children.
Honestly, Simply Manic is an odd name to have for a YouTube channel. Isn't manic like some kind of like word used to describe like a mental breakdown episode or something? Like, you guys let me know in the comments, but I think that's what the word manic is used for, because I've heard somewhere before, if I'm not wrong, somebody talk about a manic episode relating to some kind of mental disorder. So I'm pretty sure a manic is not a good word to describe yourself with. So yeah.
She usually made videos about her day-to-day life and other random topics. Her story began in 2008 when she was at the lowest point of her life. She'd recently become the single mother of a pair of twins and had no love interest in her life. That's when she met Ernie at a local tattoo shop, and the two hit it off right from the get-go, eventually getting in a relationship and starting a family together. In one of her videos, Samantha described the day she met Ernie as the happiest day of her life. Together, they were blessed with 3 more children, including 1 more pair of twins. Raising 5 kids was a challenge, but Ernie made it work by taking a second job in pizza delivery. So, while they had endured tough times together, Samantha, Ernie, and their 5 children appeared to be the perfect loving family. However, while being a stay-at-home mother was all she could do at the time, Samantha still had a dream of becoming a famous actress one day.
I've always wanted to be an actress. I think it is so much fun. I've been extras in movies. I've had small parts in like short films. It is so much fun, and it is so beautiful. It is one of the most amazing forms of art ever, to be able to express yourself that way. I think it's amazing.
So, in October 2010, she created her YouTube channel and started posting videos, hoping to become a popular YouTuber and fulfill her dream on the internet instead. And things were going surprisingly okay in the beginning. Samantha would post new videos whenever she had something new to say. And while most of her videos struggled to get past 100 views at the time, the few viewers she had were enough to keep her going. But as time passed on, her passion for making videos turned into an obsession. She started spending more of her time on making videos than her family, putting even more pressure on an already stressed out Ernie. Around 2014, she also started accusing Ernie of hurting her in her videos, hinting at just how bad their relationship was going. But then, after posting a seemingly random video in March of 2014, Samantha mysteriously vanished from the internet. Maybe she lost interest in YouTube or just wanted to focus on her family again. No one knew exactly why she quit so abruptly. Then, on the 20th of February 2015, viewers finally received the update they were waiting for. Unfortunately, it was far more tragic than anyone could have imagined. It started with the Texas police receiving a call from one of Samantha's aunts asking them to save her niece's life.
Titus County 911, what's your emergency?
I have a home invasion. My niece is tied up. I am at the verge of untying my niece at this particular moment.
Okay, she's tied up.
She is tied up and gagged.
And gagged? Is that what you said?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anybody else there?
Where are the kids? We have 5 small infants asleep.
Apparently, 3 masked men broke into their home in the middle of the night and attacked the couple while they were asleep. The intruders then tied Samantha in her bedroom and, after hitting him with a gun a few times, kidnapped Ernie. Samantha somehow managed to get her ties loose enough to call her aunt, who then contacted the police after arriving at Samantha's home herself. By the time officers arrived, Samantha's aunt had set her free from the restraints. The kids were fortunately safe as well. However, what made this whole situation strange was that the intruders didn't.
I think I know where this is going. Before we go any further into the video I'm reacting to, you guys let me know what you think he's about to say about the whole situation. But I know like what he's about to say. Like I haven't watched the video before, but I know what's coming up. That's all I'm saying. I know what's coming up.
Take anything else from their home besides Ernie. And from the people who knew him personally, Ernie wasn't the type of guy to make enemies with dangerous people. Put simply, investigators sensed something fishy with the whole situation. But all that paled in comparison to the main.
As they should. Because what the hell is a pizza delivery guy getting kidnapped for? Why is a pizza delivery guy's house getting broken into by 3 masked men? And why is he getting whipped upside the head by a gun and then kidnapped? Like, what do they want with a pizza delivery guy? It doesn't make sense.
Objective, which was to save Ernie as soon as possible. Unfortunately, Samantha didn't know anything that could give investigators their first clue. With no other option, the officers took Samantha to the station for further questioning, hoping to extract any useful information they could from her. But what none of them expected was that Samantha would change up her story completely after entering the interrogation room. Where before she didn't know anything about the assailants, now she had the name of a potential suspect, John Rebel. As Samantha's story goes, she was talking to her friend about Ernie's supposed attacks on Samantha. when suddenly a man with the pseudonym John Rebel overheard their conversation and started talking about how a man shouldn't treat a woman that way and that he was going to handle the situation. Well, as it turned out, the name John Rebel actually belonged to someone, a man named Jonathan Sanford. The police found and arrested John not long after Samantha.
Like, what's wrong with, like, if that story she told is true, the guy that said he was gonna handle it, like, did he mean in this way? Because this is a pretty dumb way to handle the situation. Like, you're an outside factor. You could call the police to go do a wellness check or something like that. So you don't have to involve yourself personally and break into somebody's house and kidnap them because you don't think that's the way a stranger that you probably don't, I don't think he even knows them. You don't think that's the way that the husband should be treating his wife in that relationship, even though you're not like close to any of the people in the relationship. Like, who are you, bro? Why are you trying to get involved with this relationship? Like, you're weird, bro.
Gave out his name, right alongside his two accomplices, Jose Ponce and Octavius Rhymes. Surprisingly, Jonathan put up little to no resistance and immediately confessed to kidnapping Ernie. He also confirmed the worst possible outcome, that by the time the police got involved, Ernie was already dead. The three took him to a secluded forest and executed him with one shot to the back of his head. However, even after learning all this, one question remained. Why? Why would three men who didn't even know Ernie kidnap him from his home like that? Every answer to this question pointed back to Samantha, who kept denying any involvement. Even if the investigators ignored her suddenly remembering the perpetrator's name, there were several other suspicious aspects to her story. Like, how was she able to untie herself enough to call her aunt? Why didn't any of her neighbors hear the break-in? And why were the kids all sleeping in the same room, when usually they're scattered throughout the house? It wasn't long before investigators uncovered undeniable evidence of her direct involvement. This included instruction messages she sent to Octavius when the officers were trying to call Ernie's phone, which he had on him. These read, "Kill his phone, shut that down, ditch phone, move." There was no doubt about it at this point. Samantha was in colluding with her husband's killers. And as the investigation went on, the real story came out as well. Samantha had apparently become addicted to the idea of becoming a famous YouTuber, and her neglect of the kids became a constant source of fighting between the couple. But instead of resolving the issue like a responsible adult, Samantha colluded with her friend's boyfriend to hatch a cartoonishly evil scheme to get rid of Ernie. They first wanted to plant hard drugs in his car and get him arrested, but later made the heartless decision that taking his life would be much easier. There's also a chance that Samantha went with the murder plan because it would have brought her more attention on YouTube. She was eventually sentenced to 149 years in prison for
Much deserved. 140 years. Yeah, it's wraps for her, bro. Like they don't. He's not specifically saying it's a life sentence, but it's a life sentence. She's not living past 140. Definitely not, bro. She's cooked. She's done. And I can't even like imagine like how it would affect the kids, bro. Like the kids, like it's just sad, bro. You killed your dad, and now you're in prison, like forever. They're not gonna see you anymore. Now probably all of them are gonna get scattered in some foster homes and just grow up without their original parents. But that's what happened, man. I feel bad for the kids, bro.
killing her own husband, leaving her 5 children completely orphaned in the process. Diana Lovejoy was a successful technical writer living in the town of Carlsbad, California with her husband Greg Mulvihill. However, while her corporate job paid the bills, Diana's true passion was becoming a triathlon athlete and documenting her journey on video, resulting in her eventually starting her own fitness blog called Lovejoy Fitness and a YouTube channel by the name of Heavy DJ. She started this channel all the way back in 2008 and over the years used it to document various parts of her life. From meeting her parents after a long time to going scuba diving with her husband. At one point, she even tried to become a cooking show host of sorts.
Doesn't that smell nice?
Unfortunately, her channel never really took off, forcing her to eventually cut her losses and move on with her life in March of 2012. Or at least that's what it looked like from the outside. In reality, Diana's reason for abandoning her YouTube channel was kind of wholesome. You see, Diana and Greg had been trying for a baby for years by this point. Tragically, Diana had suffered 8 different miscarriages and was quickly losing hope. But then in September of 2012, the two were blessed with a perfectly healthy baby boy, marking an end to their struggle. However, what should have been a moment of celebration started a downward spiral of lies and betrayals, eventually culminating in an assassination attempt. Things started going downhill when just a few months after the birth of their son, Greg lost his job, leaving Diana as the sole breadwinner. The stress of the previous miscarriages, combined with the crushing weight of having to support a family in an extremely expensive city all on her own, spelled disaster for their marriage. It wasn't long before the two were constantly fighting with each other. Things escalated even further on July 9, 2014, when Greg returned home only to see a police officer waiting for him at the door. The officer explained that Greg wasn't allowed to enter his own home because, as it turned out, Diana had accused him of attacking both her and their son. What followed was a nearly 2-year-long divorce mediation, during which the investigators found no evidence supporting Diana's accusations, allowing Greg to get a 50-50 custody of their son.
That was so weird to do. Like, you might be mad that your husband is not helping you provide for the household anymore, but I'm pretty sure he was looking for something to do to eventually start helping again. Like, it wasn't his fault he lost his job. He probably didn't want to lose it. It was probably because of some budget cuts or something that he lost his job, I'm pretty sure. I'm not totally sure, but I'm pretty sure that was the case. Like, it was stressful. Like, I can't imagine how stressful it would have been, but like, getting him away from his kids for something he didn't do was just, it's pretty bad, man. It's pretty horrible to do. Come on. Like, he's a father. That's his son. He also feels the weight of all those 8 miscarriages you guys had together, so I'm pretty sure not seeing his kid is very devastating to him. So, yeah.
Diana was also ordered to pay $120,000 as a part of their divorce settlement in late 2015. But before the divorce could be finalized, Greg received a phone call from an anonymous number that changed everything. The voice on the other end claimed to be a private investigator Diana had hired recently. And according to this investigator, he already had solid proof of the attack claims Diana had made against Greg. But for some unknown reason, he wanted to help Greg win the case, so he claimed to have left the documents taped to a power pole located on a small hiking trail near Greg's home. Greg naturally found this whole thing pretty suspicious and decided to take one of his friends with him to the pole on the night of September 4th, 2016.
As he should, bro. Anybody in this situation would definitely find this suspicious. Like, what the hell do you mean you have evidence against me? You're working with my wife, but you want to help me for some reason. Like, bro, are you good? Are you good? That's genuinely a question I would ask the person telling me that. Like, are you good? The hell?
Sadly, despite his suspicions, he failed to grasp the true intentions of the strangely helpful private detective.
Hello, this is 911.
Yeah. My friend has just been shot.
Do you know who shot him?
There's a guy lying down like a sniper.
A sniper? Did you see him at all?
Briefly, we saw the gun, and he shot at us like 6 or 7 times.
When Greg reached the pole, a sniper opened fire on him, shooting him clean through the chest. Fortunately, the bullet missed his heart by mere inches, giving him a second chance at life. By the time the police arrived, the shooter had already fled the crime scene. But a quick survey of the area allowed the investigators to uncover a pair of towels the shooter left behind. Running a DNA test on these towels led to a man named Weldon McDavid, Diana's shooting instructor. Weldon tried to deny any involvement at first, but the evidence against him was overwhelming, as after a thorough search...
Like, some people are just so evil, bro. Like, you're her shooting instructor. Like, what business do you have being involved in her personal life and her relationship and trying to take out her husband because she told you to? Like, what are you, like, having an affair with her or something, and it's that good to the point where you want to take the husband out of the equation so that you could be the only factor? Like, bro.
Investigators were able to find another set of the same towels at Diana's place as well. They had also received CCTV footage of Diana buying the burner phone Weldon later used to lure Greg into the secluded area. Most importantly, investigators also found the gun Weldon used on Greg, hidden in the rafters of his garage. By this point, it was clear that Diana was the one who wanted to get rid of Greg, likely to avoid paying the divorce settlement and keep full custody of her son. Diana and Weldon...
She put herself in that predicament to pay that $120,000 divorce settlement in the first place. She never had to falsely accuse her husband, and if she never did that, she wouldn't have had to find herself in a situation where she had to pay $120,000. It was her fault. She had no right to put it on her husband and try to literally take his life, bro. That's just evil. Literally plain evil.
And were arrested for the attempted assassination on Greg Mulvihill and tried for their crimes in November 2017. Both were found guilty, with Diana sentenced to 26 years to life and Weldon to a harsher 50 years to life. The only silver lining in this entire case is that Greg was able to make a full.
Now look at that stupid guy Weldon, bro. Like you barely even knew the family, I suppose. Maybe you knew the wife, but you didn't even know the husband. But you decided to throw away your life to try and do something for the wife. And now she's getting a lesser sentence than you. How do you feel now, bro? I'm sure you feel pretty stupid. Like you're dumb. You're dumb.
Recovery and is now living with his son. The Gunnar Runar 87 channel on YouTube seems oddly wholesome at first glance. It's owned by an Icelandic boy named Gunnar Runar Sigthorsson and contains a single 3.5-minute video of him confessing his feelings to the girl he loves. The title translates to English as My Confession to Hildur. In it, he says things like,
Hún án efa sérstakasta manneskja sem ég nokkuð tímann hitt. Ég verð svo ótrúlega glaður bara að vera nálægt henni. Það þarf ekki meira. Og þetta ætlað þér því að ég held sig orðinn ástfanginn með þér.
However, this seemingly heartfelt love letter turned out to be the key to solving one of the most horrific crimes in recent Icelandic history. And it all led back to Gunnar and the troubled life he had as a child. You see, Gunnar didn't have a mother growing up, resulting in him getting extremely close with his father. However, on the night of September 20th, 1996, when Gunnar was just 9 years old, his father decided to end it all using a gun. What made this already messed up situation even worse was the fact that Gunnar was in the room with his father and witnessed everything. Unsurprisingly, this took a heavy toll on Gunnar's mental health. He withdrew from the world and refused to accept his father's death as reality. Everything seemed hopeless for Gunnar. That is, until primary school, when he met.
No, the dad was wrong for doing that, bro. He was so very wrong. Like, how are you going to do such a thing in front of your 9-year-old son? Like, come on, bro. You know that's gonna mess up his life, man. And you did that anyways. Like, if you wanted to do that, which I don't support in any way, nobody should ever do that to themselves. And if you really wanted to do that and you were sure that you were gonna go ahead with it, you shouldn't have done it in the presence of your son. That's evil. That's evil. That's very evil. And he was only 9 years old, bro. 9.
Met a girl named Hildur and instantly became infatuated with her. He'd admired her throughout school and into adulthood, but never found the courage to make a move, fearing he'd lose his only close friend. However, things changed in 2009 when Hildur got engaged to a man named Hannes. This gave Gunnar the push to do something about his feelings. But given his shy personality, he still couldn't confront Hildur directly. So, in March of 2009, he created a YouTube channel and uploaded his confession on there. Hildur never reciprocated his feelings, but the two remained friends.
But she couldn't have, like she was already engaged to another person. How is she going to leave him for you? You guys might have been friends for a long time, but she obviously did not see you in that way, bro. Like, maybe you should have shot your shot earlier. I don't know.
Even Hannes, Hildur's now husband, didn't seem to mind Gunnar's company, something he likely regretted deeply just a year later. It all went down on the 14th of August 2010. Hildur was invited to a party that Gunnar was attending as well. But things got a bit out of hand and Hildur ended up drinking too much and passing out. Given their closeness, the task of getting her home safely was handed to Gunnar. But instead of dropping her off at Hannes' house like he should have, Gunnar took her to his own home. By the time Hildur woke up, it was already morning. She was understandably furious with Gunnar and immediately called one of her friends to drive her home. But nothing could have prepared Hildur for the horrific scene she witnessed on the other side of her front door. Her husband Hannes was lying on the top of the staircase near their bedroom, submerged in a pool of his own blood. She ran outside and called the authorities.
Damn it, bro. Damn it. Why? Why, bro? She was married, bro. That was her husband. Why couldn't you just go find somebody else, bro? She wasn't the only girl in the world. You went too far, Gunnar. You went too far. You went too far, bro. No. No.
Sadly, it was already too late. Hannes had received over 20 stab wounds on his body, from his arms and legs to the back of his neck, and was long dead by the time Hildur found him. Given his condition, his death was ruled a homicide, and investigators wasted no time in looking for the killer. And while they initially suspected one of his business rivals of committing this horrific crime, it didn't take long for investigators to find Gunnar's video confession to Hildur and bring him in for questioning. Gunnar denied knowing anything about it and was eventually let go due to lack of evidence. Fortunately, not all hope was lost, because not long after that, investigators found a bloody shoe print next to Hannes' bed. Looking deeper into this print revealed that it belonged to a pair of limited edition Adidas shoes. At the time, there were only 18 of these specific shoes in all of Iceland, and Gunnar just so happened to own one of these pairs. This was enough evidence to detain him once again. This also gave
Yeah, wearing limited edition shoes that have only been produced 18 times in your country to go do something like this to somebody and expecting not to get caught, it's probably one of the dumbest things I've ever heard, bro. Like, you're wearing limited edition shoes, only 18 pairs in your country, and you decide to go do what you did in those shoes. Yeah, bro, you deserve to get caught, man. You deserve to get caught.
investigators the authority to do a thorough search of his belongings, resulting in them finding residue of Hannes' blood on his shoes, as well as in his car. Once presented with this evidence, Gunnar confessed to the murder. He also revealed that he'd been planning it for months, and even shoplifted the items he intended to use to avoid purchase records linking back to him. And while he didn't admit to it, Hildur also suspected him of spiking her drink that night, since she usually never passed out like that. After committing the crime, he also drove to a nearby pier and dumped items used in the crime into the sea to get rid of any evidence. It was a well thought out plan, since he was only caught because the garbage bag he used to hide his shoe prints tore open as he walked. As for his motive, it was just as everyone had expected, with him making it clear during the investigation, stating, "I loved Hildur. She was supposed to be with me. She was not supposed to be with him." Surprisingly, he was found not
She was supposed to be with who she wanted to be with, not who you wanted her to be with. Weirdo.
guilty during his first trial on March 1, 2011 by reason of insanity stemming from his messed up childhood. However, the prosecution argued that he was fully aware of his actions and escalated the case to the Supreme Court of Iceland. Gunnar was found guilty on this second trial and was sentenced to 16 years in prison. This was already lenient given the brutality of his crime.
Wait, he was sentenced to 16 years for doing that? Yeah, that's definitely too lenient, bro. You guys need to do more. You guys need to do better than that. 16 years for what he did. Hell no. He deserves a whole lot worse.
Yet he ended up serving only half of that sentence as well. He was released under supervision in July 2019.
What? Where is the justice, bro? Where is the justice?
And now works at a local warehouse.
I can't imagine how painful it must be for the wife of the deceased that was murdered by Gunnar to see that Gunnar is out of jail after only spending half of 16 years that he was supposed to spend, which is not even enough in the first place. He should be serving life. But to all the people who sadly lost their lives because of these horrible YouTubers, rest in peace to you guys. And to you guys watching right now, I love you, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.